Hello, I am Lily Cass, Opera Philadelphia's Scholar in Residence, and it is my pleasure today to introduce you to Rossini's 1816 opera, Otello. I will share some historical context for the opera, a few fun facts, and moments to listen out for when you attend the opera at the Academy of Music. The music to Otello was written by Gioacchino Rossini, who is today most famous for his comedic works, such as The Barber of Seville. Rossini was an Italian composer who lived from 1792 to 1868, but he only wrote operas between the ages of 18 and 37. Even though he stopped writing operas relatively early in his career, he managed to write 39 operas in that 19-year span. It is rumored that Rossini's musical mind was so fertile that he would write scores in bed, and if a page fell down, rather than getting up to retrieve it, he would simply write a new page of music. Rossini is one of three major composers that are considered the fathers of bel canto opera. Bel canto simply means beautiful singing, but the term has come to refer to operas by Rossini, Bellini, and Donizetti, Italian composers who wrote in the first part of the 19th century, and whose works privilege beautiful singing above all else. This is good news for us, as we can expect to hear memorable melodies that tug on our heartstrings, as well as virtuosic displays of vocal fireworks when we attend Rossini's Otello. The occasion for the beautiful singing, in this case, is an adaptation of William Shakespeare's 1603 tragedy, Othello, or The Moor of Venice. Shakespeare's play explores issues of honesty, jealousy, and power through the story of Othello and Desdemona. Desdemona is the white daughter of a white Venetian senator. Othello is black and is labeled a Moor, which is a term that was usually used to refer to black Muslims. As such, Otello is an outsider to the white Venetian community. At the same time, he is a military hero, which allows him some degree of social and political access to the rich and powerful. This is how he meets Desdemona, and the two fall in love and marry against the wishes of her father, Brabantio. Iago is a soldier in Othello's military troupe, and he convinces Othello he is trustworthy. Once he has Othello's ear, he implies that Desdemona is being unfaithful. Othello questions Iago, but he begins to be convinced, especially when Iago brings him proof of Desdemona's infidelity, her handkerchief found in another man's room. Iago stokes Othello's jealousy and rage until Othello kills the innocent Desdemona in her bed and then kills himself. Many of you may be familiar with this plot from reading the Shakespeare in your high school English class or watching famous film adaptations of the work. However, this is not exactly the plot you will see unfold in the opera. Shakespeare's play had already been adapted for different audiences many times by the time Rossini decided to address the subject. And the opera's librettist, Neapolitan nobleman Francesco Maria Berio, did not refer to the Shakespeare play alone when he was writing the libretto. Main features of the opera's plot come from the 1794 French adaptation of the play by Jean-François Ducis, and an 1813 Neapolitan adaptation of the play by Giovanni Carlo Cosenza. One of the interesting things about Shakespeare's Othello is the lack of clear motives for several of the characters. Why is Iago intent on ruining Othello's life? Why is Othello so easily persuaded that his wife is unfaithful? Why is no one able to prevent the play's tragic conclusion? These late 18th and early 19th century adaptations of the tragedy fill in some of those gaps. In Berio's text to Rossini's opera, the characters Rodrigo, Otello, and Iago are all in love with Desdemona, and this love is the primary motivation for their actions. When the opera begins, Desdemona, and here I'll switch to the Italian pronunciation, Desdemona. Desdemona has spurned Iago, who marries Emilia. Desdemona's best friend, Rodrigo, is still trying to win Desdemona's hand, not knowing that she has been secretly married to Otello. This love triangle, although in fact it has more than three sides, is complicated by the fact that Otello is an outsider in society because of his African origins and the black color of his skin. Otello's race does not matter to Desdemona, who loves him completely, but it does to Iago, Rodrigo, Desdemona's father, called in Miro in the opera, and perhaps most importantly, to Otello himself. When Iago plants the idea that Desdemona has been unfaithful to Otello, sending love letters to Rodrigo behind his back, Otello believes Iago, not because of jealousy, but because he fundamentally cannot believe that Desdemona can love a black man. In many performances of Rossini's Otello, the role of Otello was, and sometimes still is, played by a white singer wearing black stage makeup, a practice known as blackface. Blackface has also been used in productions of Shakespeare's play, including famous 1961 film starring Laurence Olivier. Blackface is a harmful practice that reduces race to a caricature and stems from a long history of white supremacy. Opera Philadelphia does not use blackface. The role of Otello will be played by Black South African tenor Khanyiso Gwenkane, who will be making his United States debut. In addition, Opera Philadelphia's artistic director and audience favorite Lawrence Brownlee, who is an African-American tenor from Ohio, will be playing the role of Rodrigo, a character who is usually assumed to be white. Lawrence Brownlee has always wanted to play the role, and Opera Philadelphia's inclusive casting has allowed him to make his debut. It is important to note that diverse casting for Otello does not solve the issue of race in the opera. The libretto contains racist language centering around Otello's black skin and his African roots. This language drives home the racist Venetian society of the opera's setting, but it may still be upsetting to witness for audiences today in Philadelphia, where anti-black racism is still present in daily life. Although Otello is separated from Iago and Rodrigo in terms of his outsider status as a black man, he sounds very similar in the opera. In many operas, voice parts are relatively evenly distributed between sopranos, mezzo-sopranos, tenors, baritones, and basses. Rossini's Otello is not one of these operas. Rather, it is full to the brim with tenors. The main roles of Rodrigo, Otello, and Iago are all tenors, and 3 more minor characters are too: the Doge of Venice, Lucio, and the gondolier. Aesthetically, this makes for some of the most beautiful tenor music in the bel canto repertoire, with an abundance of tenor solos and duets. Dramatically, it means that the voices of Desdemona's rivals blur together a bit. As we all know, Otello is a tragedy. However, there is another ending. The original tragic ending, with Otello stabbing Desdemona and then himself, was written for the opera's premiere in 1816, but a happy ending was created for the opera's performance in Rome during the carnival season of 1819 to 1820. The Pope did not approve of the murder-suicide at the end of the opera's libretto, and the opera had to be modified if it was to be presented in Rome during Carnival. This censored version that was produced has Desdemona able to convince Otello she is innocent. Otello is provided with irrefutable proof of Desdemona's innocence before it is too late, and everyone rejoices at the end. Opera Philadelphia is not presenting this happy ending, but I find that considering this possibility of happiness for all makes the tragic ending you will see still more poignant. Otello is fundamentally based on misunderstandings, some of them natural and some contrived, but all stemming from systemic racism and sexism. Some think that Rossini's beautiful music has the potential to distract audiences from the pain his characters experience, and this may be why his tragedies are not as well received today as his comedies are. When you attend Otello, I encourage you to listen closely to how the characters strive to express themselves through words and through music. They are overcome with strong emotions, feeling trapped in the situations in which they find themselves due to the constraints of society. Their desperation and their intense desire for peaceful and joyful lives permeates the score, which is what makes attending this opera a powerful experience for audiences. Thank you so much for listening to this talk, which we are filming here at the Kimmel Center, which is under construction, which you may be able to hear in the background. So thank you for bearing with us.